Welcome back to today's video. Now, as you can see behind me, I will be going over some different topics and information both regarding my channel, the community, and the videos I post. Now, first, apologies for reading off my phone here. I'd like to improve. Why can't I do it? I'd like to improve my presentation and how I speak, given I can't stick to one specific topic, and before I end up all over the place, I have to write everything down. I'm going to try this out, see how it goes. I've done a few takes on this, and I end up here to here to here to here, and it ends up being like this 20-minute spiel where I don't even remember why I was originally talking about the subject. So, apologies if I'm looking down a lot. I just try to read off my phone, keep things straight and to the point here. I wrote all this beforehand, so give me some moment, or give me a time. Damn it. Anyways, second, I'd like to address the good and bad comments from my channel. I do believe that all feedback is good feedback, and whether you're a hater for whatever reason, disagree with the video, or dislike my method, it's all good information for my end. I specifically wanted to actually address the comment on VeriCrypt for Windows, which does read the following, which I will post probably like right here. Unfortunately, this video does not make it easy to understand what you are doing and how to set up and use VeriCrypt. You may want to slow down the process and explain it better and clearer. I have reviewed the video, and the initial installation I do believe was clear. Please do correct me if I'm wrong. If you guys don't understand, I'd be happy. Like I said, from my understanding it is, but I've also had quite a few years and playing with a lot of these tools, so it could be a different understanding for other people. I like to make sure that is, to the best of my ability, is clear for everyone else as possible. It's obviously not going to be clear for 100% of people, but the more people I can understand what I'm doing and how to use the software or what I am currently trying to show, I think that's the general target here. But I have reviewed the video. The initial installation I do believe was clear. However, the volume creation and method could have had some improvements. Looking at it myself, I kind of just go through, okay, now we'll do this, now we'll do this, but I'll explain, hey, we're going to create the volume here. This volume is encrypted, allows you to do this, this, and this, right? Like I believe I've been improving a little bit there, but I definitely could use some more improvements. So I'll make sure to address this in the future and see that to it that more folks can understand what I am doing in videos. I do appreciate the feedback, and I am looking into making some sort of process in which I run my videos by others who do not know how to perform a certain action, and which I am doing in the video. And I'd like to make sure that, you know, if they do understand, it's a good video. If they don't understand, that I can address it, redo the chapter, or however it may be. Some videos, what I'll do is I'll go straight through it, and I just do it as is. I don't split it up by chapters. Usually because it's a little bit of an easier software, which I believe is what I did with VeriCrypt. But I've had some issues before, usually when I'm sleep deprived at 1 in the morning. I don't know if you guys have noticed, when I upload, or some of the video recordings are like 1, 2 in the morning, I usually end up messing up a lot more there, and I'll have to do chapters, make sure that, okay, if I redo this, then I can pick up from there, yada yada. So, but I am definitely looking into that. I do appreciate the feedback, and I will be seeing to it that improvements are made. Maybe, I'm wondering if maybe like, not a Patreon, but not in such a way where users can subscribe to the early access videos, provide feedback, and then from a week from now, if there's no other issues or anything I need to address, then I can drop it for everyone else on YouTube, something like that maybe. We'll see. I'll see what can be done there. Third, though, regarding my upload schedule, this hasn't been mentioned in my comments, and from the analytics I've seen, most viewers are new, so this is understandable, but I want to make sure it's clear and to the point anyways. Currently, I have no schedule, as I do a lot of this in my spare time when I'm not taking on any sort of other items on my plate. I do plan on making some additional content with friends here soon, more or less us shit-talking each other because we can, playing games and enjoying the experience between each other, just as before, like my last Helldivers video. My analytics do point more away from this, but I don't care really a lot about that. The analytics don't define what I should do as a channel. I define what I do, and if folks don't like it, that's fine. I mean, there's plenty of other channels that's not their cup of tea. I'm not looking to, you know, make everyone happy here. But for the gaming and stuff, it's going to be uploaded regardless. I think it's good, and I do want to spiffy up those videos, I guess. Make them look good, obviously not slop content. But just us shit talking and fucking around in Helldivers or BeamNG or whatever it may be, really. So the analytics don't define what I do as a channel, and I want to make that very clear. You guys will see me go back and forth, kind of just what I like to do in general. My analytics do point more away from this, but I personally don't care a lot about that. My channel is what I wish to make it, and I do use some of my analytics to give me inspiration, understand where parts of my videos may have issues, but I do not want it to define me. And to touch on this as well, for example, the gaming videos, we did a Helldivers video just because it was fun last time, right? We've done BeamNG because we all three enjoyed, screwing around with each other and going in at Mach fuck into each other's cars. But for the more tutorial-like videos, how to run something, how to do something, this is where I usually look at my YouTube analytics or the inspiration tab, where I'll see what are people searching up, what are people looking into, what are things I can cover that the general populace is looking to try and get help with. I've seen a lot of GitLab, GitHub stuff, how to define GitLab CI/CD pipelines, things like that, which I've covered a little bit before. So that's where that analytic part comes from, or I guess just YouTube Studio in general, where I'm trying to understand, okay, I'm out of ideas here. I don't know what I should go for next, which I do have a map defined. I've got it in my documents and such. But even then, regardless, sometimes there's videos I don't have on my map, which I can cover pretty easily. That can hopefully help others, try and get it from there. But the gaming videos with others, or with friends and others, are meant to be a highlight of the good times we've had and share with the world our experience. It's not everyone's cup of tea, and that's just fine. Regardless of that, though, I still want to make more of these and connect with the community while doing so. Here soon, expect to see some more streams here on YouTube with us messing around. Don't really think I'm going to go with Twitch. I don't care for them too much, both as a platform, but it's just, I don't like how they do things. Yeah, it's more stream focused, but I always like to go back to my content. Like sometimes what I'll do with YouTube is I'll stream and then private the stream after. That way I can go clip it down, edit it, and go from there. So I'll probably just stick to YouTube as it is for now. But I may even start streaming with me dicking around with some of the code and software I've made. So if you guys like Node.js or PHP spaghetti code, you're in for a treat. And I do plan on going into other code languages. Golang seems to be a good one. I've seen a lot. Maybe we'll get into Rust and I'll make a memory safe program. We'll see. Additionally as well, though, I do plan on making videos on just about anything I find interesting or some stuff I do with friends. We've all discussed doing some Urbex videos, possibly discovering other cities, just walking through and having a good time, seeing what it's like. We're not doing any sort of Johnny Somali bullshit. I don't plan on going to Korean or Japanese jails anytime soon. But just our regular gaming videos as well as my own. I wish to get more into programming, make your own dev environment to learn it, and assist those looking into the technical side of things. While I am no expert, I have had quite a few years reading documentation, running my own servers, and getting the understanding for what everything is myself, between languages, kind of running IT, Kubernetes, Linux, all that good stuff. Beginning early in high school, I went from not knowing anything about how to operate a Linux desktop. I remember getting my first Raspberry Pi and knowing absolutely nothing on how to run it, to now I administer a couple R810s in there that run Ubuntu server is for Kubernetes, and then Proxmox virtual environment hosts the rest of the virtual machines, including Waza. And I do a lot of that, the FortiGate, the Ubiquity content. But I want to be able to share this information and inspire others, not to only learn what I know, but to go further and be better than what I can even do. I'm not, this all high and mighty guy who knows everything, but it's a very good jumping off point from my view here of, okay, if you can learn what I can from here, then that's already a good starting point. Go further and do better, essentially. Do better than I can. So, make software, hardware, whatever your heart desires that can benefit this whole world as a whole is kind of my MO in regards to those videos. But privacy-preserving tools are also another focus I'd like to make on this channel as well. With such a big push for so many companies to spy on you and harvest your data for their own benefit, fuck you, Walmart. I think it's important to understand and know what to use and what not to use. This includes messaging tools such as ways to thwart the spying methods. And I would like to take this time to announce our unofficial, unauthorized sponsor, Signal. Better than Telegram, it has yet to cave into federal authorities here and abroad, and doesn't contain 8,000 e-coitus bots trying to jack your coins. This is more on the whole issue that Telegram ended up caving in. They're adding in the old AI bullshit into their systems to try and thwart a lot of the spam, which, yes, sure, it's good. A lot of the bots are absolutely horrendous, but at the same time, I don't think AI has any place right now in the world that it does. Sure, there's some cool products, but why the fuck does AI need to read my messages in the first place for your moderation? I'm sure there's plenty of other ways it could have gone about it. I'm no expert in that field, like I've said before. And I mean, Signal, with how Signal does it, you don't really discover people, which I think is pretty damn good. I think that's probably the perfect way it could have been put. And even with Signal compared to Telegram, I don't believe that there's been information that the public has been privy to see what Telegram's actually handed over to people, or the federal courts, I should say, with whatever country it may be in. But Signal has given up those orders. And it's funny because if you go into a lot of them, literally all Signal has been able to do is, I believe it's the phone number and the last time they logged in. It's literally all they have. Everything else is fully encrypted. They can't hand it over, at least according to official documentation. And to my knowledge, nothing's ever been cracked on Signal. So it's definitely a good measure if you're going to use it for private communications. But that all will be discussed in another video. I'll make sure to take care of that. What's the best communication method you can do in the 21st century, things like that. But won't be covered in this one. Today we will actually be discussing the installation of Mastodon to our DWX Enterprises network. Now, DWX Enterprises is an organization I've spent years creating. I've been trying to start up between, having a main job, work, all this. I've always wanted to make my own organization that's more privacy focused and helps others, while also introducing solutions into this world that's better than what it could be. It's hard to describe because it's gone through quite a few changes, and I guess the main thing to note here is with what Google, Microsoft, all of them could be doing, we could do better as a people. And that's what I'd like to focus on is, for example, the search engine. I haven't provisioned SearchX recently, which I probably should get back into, maybe make a video on that. But why in the hell does a search engine need to watch every move you do? Why does it need to sponsor all these ads? Yada yada. There are many other methods in which you could be having revenue come in, and I don't believe spying on your customers and your folks are the way to go about it. And Proton Mail too is a perfect depiction of that, where you have G Suite or just we'll call it the personal G Suite. I'm not sure what they actually call it, but when you sign up with a Google account, you have Gmail, you have Drive, you have Docs, all this good stuff. Now, granted, you have to pay for this in Proton, I believe. You get 5 gigs free, I think, for Proton Drive, and then their documentation and stuff, or their documents. But the more subscription-based service to upkeep all those servers is a lot better than spying on me and what I'm doing. Not only is it private, but we can't trust a lot of these companies as it is to even keep our data safe. We've had so many leaks, and even look at T-Mobile. They've had like 3 hacks in 1 year, I remember. And that's as far as we publicly know. For all we know, there's even more that are covered under NDAs. But the point being, information should be encrypted. You should not spy on your folks, your customers, your people, whatever it may be, because it's just terrible in the end, right? Even if you are storing that data and you're not selling it to advertisers, it's information that hackers and stuff can use, whether it's phone numbers tied to personal names. Like, looking at it from the offensive side, if I have a database full of names, emails, and phone numbers, then I can use this information to target people specifically. Like, okay, is the number a 425 number? They're in Seattle specifically. I'm going to send them an email focusing on maybe Seattle local banks and some of the phishing email, for example, right? There's quite a bit of information you can mine off of someone's data that has been leaked. I've even, unfortunately, been the victim of the Coinbase hacks. and they keep sending me fucking emails from Russia and stuff. Welcome back, user 39421 to the Bitcoin cloud mining platform and yada yada. And it's like, thanks guys, don't care, leave me alone. Like, yeah. Anyways, I might rant over. But if you haven't already, with all this aside, please do check out the site over at nerdherd.wtf. I do upload all of our other videos there, kind of as a backup source as well, a mirror. But I also keep this more as a link tree alternative. I personally don't care for a link tree. I used it for a couple of years more as a substitute to put all my socials in one place. But I finally said, screw it. I'm going to take the time now, provision a site. As a team here over at the team house, we needed something for all of us anyway. So I was like, screw it. I'll just throw up a site. We can all use it, stuff like that. So nerdherd.wtf if you already haven't checked it out. I've got my Ko-Fi there where you can also donate to me if you do choose to. I got banned from Cash App for reasons beyond me. I still don't know why. They haven't sent me any information. I haven't received or sent anything in like the last 6 months. So beyond me. But I do plan on updating that site with past and present videos. Like I said, I just have to have time, take the time to do so. But with all that said, my piece, all that, let's get to starting the actual video. Installing Mastodon and kind of the underwhelming amount of features it has. So thanks for watching, and yeah, stay tuned. Once again, any feedback, positive or negative, please do give it. I want to be here, or how? I want to be happy to hear your feedback. I can't speak. This is why I need a fucking script.
So as previously discussed, we're actually going to look into Mastodon and kind of just how it looks installed into our system here. So as you can see, we actually deployed this via Kubernetes. And as I previously stated, don't use any of the Helm charts. I seem to have issues with those. I had to actually manually deploy this to the deployment section, similar to kind of a Docker container instance. And if you don't exactly know between the differences of Kubernetes and Docker, you can essentially pertain a Docker compose to a Helm chart, where essentially you have multiple services within this chart, this YAML file, and they rely on one another. Usually in this case, it's like Mastodon relies on Postgres. It also relies on maybe Elasticsearch, I think is one of them, things like that. But I just couldn't get it to work for the life of me. The Helm chart kept failing. It kept giving me installation failed, relying on this service, doing this, doing that, yada, yada. I just said, screw it. Okay, we're going to deploy this manually. It can't be that hard, right? And really, I took less time deploying this manually than I did trying to find the right Helm chart and customizing it. So I'm not sure exactly. Maybe I was doing something wrong. But I mean, regardless, it was super easy to do. If we go to the configuration here, named the container, we gave it a little bit of storage, which I guess I could remove now since we have our own object storage already set up. We gave it the image here, which I believe the GHCR is GitHub, I want to say, version 4.33. And then you gave it the basic command. I got this from a Docker Compose file I found for Mastodon. We gave it the local domain because we're not hosting at social.com.dwxenterprises.net. We're hosting it as a dwxenterprises.net home server using the social.com whatever as a subdomain for it. It gets a little confusing, but when you get to understanding and reading the doc, it's a lot better. We give it the Redis host port. I hate Redis, but we had to use one. The Postgres host, all that good stuff. Okay, I thought I did that twice. We had to generate some keys and stuff for it, gave it some SMTP information to utilize, as well as more encryption and data, public and private key. I want to say this is for browser notifications, but I may be incorrect. Redis password, the web domain, so where we actually reach Mastodon from, and then the single sign-on information that we use for Sabre SSO, and then the S3 object storage system. We're not actually using AWS. We're using AWS similar called MinIO. We self-host this because I fucking hate Amazon Web Services. So I will never use AWS or any of those cloud services for the life of me. But we did use an object storage that was able to communicate using similar APIs. So we went ahead, used that information, protocol, endpoint, all that good stuff, And finally, we got it up. Now, initially going into Mastodon, if we go back to it here, it was pretty lackluster, I would say. Going home here, it won't give you a whole lot of information. Yeah, it's constantly preparing it for me. Yeah, I might need to double check that. I'm not sure what's going on there. My home feed as it is usually doesn't show up even on my phone. Maybe I'm doing something incorrect. I'm not entirely sure. But if we go back over here to, where is it? I want to say it's a federated timeline. You can ship post hard on your own server. But as you can see here, it's pretty. I'm just gonna scroll down. I forgot I posted that. um, but it's pretty lackluster here. So it's similar in a way. So as you can see here, we have our replies, which is similar to right here. We have the repost, which Mastodon states it is boosting, as you can see here, boost. And then we have our likes here or favoriting, and then bookmarking, which okay, 1-1. Additionally, with that, we can delete, and redraft, which is a nice feature. You don't need to pay for Premium Plus, whatever the hell Twitter calls it. You can mute the conversation, bookmark it, pin it on your profile, things like that. But you don't really have a whole lot of additional information after that, and it's pissed off. Okay. Now, going back to Twitter here, we have advertisement. We can remove this. We have a search bar, which we have this here that we can use to search. I do believe we need Elasticsearch for full search of everything on the federated server, and that is because we're searching through a lot of information. Otherwise, you can just search the usernames and such, which it is just fine. I'll probably spend the Elasticsearch instance. I'm not too interested or invested into that just yet. We haven't had a need for it, but regardless, you have the Explore tab, which kind of gives you a side view information, and then who to follow here. And then you have your main feed, you have For You and Following, which this kind of seems more kind of TweetDeck style, which sure is nice, but it would be better to have more of a configuration of it. Hard to describe here. It's just, there's a lot more that could be added into the home section. And I get it. It's not for everyone, and that's fine. But I don't know. For a Twitter clone, I guess it's not all that great. Communities would have been a nice touch. Maybe I have an outdated Mastodon instance. I should double check that. But communities is a nice touch to Twitter of it itself. It'd be a very great instance for Mastodon, especially for larger Mastodon instances, which may be for the general populace, and they wish to have sub communities essentially that you can speak in, right? We don't need Twitter Premium. We don't need Grok, any of that. And then you have your messages here, and then the notification section we do have. But overall, there could be a lot of additional features done, I feel like. And that's why I do want to take a look into the code of Mastodon. Maybe we can speed it up, make it look good, and have a few better features for ourselves. We'll see how that goes. I'll need to play with the code and mirror it to our GitLab here. But if we actually go into the settings section, yep, we're going to go ahead and leave. That's just a post I had before. We have some appearance, email notifications, stuff like that. We're actually going to dive into the moderation section here. So we have reports we can all take a look through here. We haven't had anything because this is only a couple days old. We have appeals here, which I imagine is our ban and report appeals. We have accounts, so we can manage everyone's accounts here. I'm not going to obviously show this, but we have a home server attached to the IP address they're from. We have the display and username, how many posts they all have, the followers they have, and then when they were last active. Suspending here if we need to suspend accounts for whatever reason. And then hashtags, which nice touch, very good to use. The invites, which we have no need for at this time because we run everything through a single sign-on system. Federation, which I have yet to use this just yet. I haven't gotten, like I said, too deep into Mastodon to use some of these features, but it is a nice touch to be able to manage all of this from a single section, especially as I've actually seen that Mastodon has the ability to block other federated instances, which is nice, especially if you're being rated by a certain instance in and of itself, or if you need to synchronize block lists with others that may just have just absorbent amounts of spam and garbage on their network, right? So it's definitely a nice touch, I would say. Blocked email domains. What I will say is, yes, this is a good step forward, but from my personal experience, you are going to have such a large blocked domain list. It's not going to be worth it to maintain. I've had a few instances of publicly hosted software in which people will use burner emails. It's not hard to get a hold of a burner email, and the services that provide them will buy domains in bulk that are just garbage. You need a lot of other methods, whether it's using like IP quality score or building your own system, to essentially scan and determine whether or not they are a valid email. For one, obviously, you don't want to catch all just forwarding to someone else. But two, you want to make sure that this domain is truly spam, it's not a false positive, things like that. There's some sites that are able to determine it. They use this based off of global network, global sensors. It's a very nice touch to use for your public services in general, not just Mastodon. But personally, I don't really care for the email domain blocking, just because it's really not worth it at the end of the day. It's going to be so much time, especially as your Mastodon instance or any service for that matter gets larger. So it's nice to have, I guess, for your smaller instances, but I wouldn't rely on it too much. Now, for your IP rules section here, if we go ahead and create a rule just in case. Okay, yeah, so that's pretty good. So if we wanted to create an IP rule for limiting or blocking signups or just access altogether, it's a very nice touch. Now, granted, if you're going to block someone outright from a Mastodon instance, and if you have access to the firewall or the gateway, I would just do it right then and there. There's no need really to have access to the rest of the system and then just block them from Mastodon. If you're needing to block access to everything or even just signups in general, I'd say a pretty big threat to your network, and I would say just block them outright because you don't know what else they may be attempting to do. Now granted, if you just don't want them to see everything on your Mastodon instance, I guess that's fine. But from what I've seen, like I said before, you have a lot of bots that come from whether it's mainland China. I've seen a lot of bots out of Taiwan trying to hit the SSH port or the MySQL database port, whatever it may be. Just trying to mine that good gold information. You'll want to make sure that you're not just blocking access to your main services, but for I guess we'll say high profile threats here. High profile threats should be blocked at the router or the gateway level just because that is a much better move overall, not only protecting your Mastodon instance, but any additional services you may have on site, including MySQL, any web services hosted through a reverse proxy, any SMTP servers you may have behind closed doors kind of thing. IMAP, really just about every service. You don't know what they may do or what the abilities they have. Not only that, but God forbid that Mastodon may have some sort of exploit available in which if you block access, then maybe there's some sort of backdoor available. Now, granted, yes, Mastodon is open source and always available, but it does not mean that vulnerability could not be present. We discover vulnerabilities every day in both open and closed source software, so it's always important to note that blocking access should be done at the lowest level possible. Essentially, is what I'm getting to the point to. So definitely a nice feature, especially if you're on a service per se that does host Mastodon instances for others. But if possible at all, I would definitely block them at a lower level, more at the gateway section there. And then we also have the audit log, which I'm not going to pull up because I don't want to leak any more information. PII. But then we have our administration dashboard here. Now, yes, it's going to yell at me. I don't have a Sidekick process running, yada, yada, whatever. But it does give us some information, some graphs as to what's going on. Now, we have our sign up sources because everything's SSO. And it looks like everything's just going to come from website. That's fine. And then top active languages. I imagine this pulls from the headers. I don't think it's going to scan any of the post information. I'm not entirely sure on that. I would double check with the code on that. And then the top active servers, which is definitely a good qualifier to understand where some of these threats may be coming from. if all of a sudden your top active server is you, and then that changes over to some random server that you may not be known or aware of, this is definitely a good indication that maybe you're getting a lot of spam. You need to start blocking that domain off of Mastodon or even just altogether at the firewall level. So I would definitely say these graphs are good, especially for a moderation standpoint. No new reports. I mean, what interactions and stuff. It's like I said, it's a brand new server. You're not going to see a whole lot of information on our stuff just yet here. Um, Good use here lets you know Postgres how much space it's using, along with Redis and then the media storage, which I'm kind of surprised it is getting this information since that's hosted on another instance over in MinIO for our object storage here. And then all of our versions here. MPEG included. Okay. Server settings here, you'll see we have the ability to customize our server name, which is how it will show to others, especially when you add this maybe in a Discord embed. This is what will essentially show up in that title name. And then the contact username and email will show up when you open a page to your site, essentially when you're not signed in. We go here, you'll see here that it's administered by me and then the active users, as well as our banner right here, our lovely Lilo. And then nothing's trending. Like I said, brand new server, but we can go to the about section here, our contact email, and then about server rules, moderated servers, which is essentially who we've banned off our network through the federation process. And then our server rules here, which outline what you should not do, all that good stuff. So going back here, basically just customization, branding, all that. Your favorite icon, which is how it'll show up here, as you can see. I thought it would change this, the main icon here where Mastodon is, but not a big deal. Oh well. And then the about section here, the description, like I outlined earlier, show domain blocks and why they're blocked to everyone, which is definitely a nice touch on that transparency section. And then the status page URL as well, which is definitely a nice touch, especially like as you can see here with our services. We do not just host Mastodon, we host quite a few others. And I do plan on spinning back up that SearchX instance as well as a Matrix instance for everyone to use. The registration section here, we have it disabled, like I said, because we use an SSO instance where everyone registers anyways. The discovery instance here where you can enable. Now this is something that I did find a little weird. You can enable trends and use trends as the landing page. However, you're supposed to be able to review trends. You can turn this on or off, which is odd, I guess, to some extent if you have multiple bots spamming your network on Mastodon with a certain topic. I can understand that. But nevertheless, it's a little weird that by default, you should be reviewing essentially trends before they happen. I don't know. It kind of just sets me off the wrong way. Maybe I'm being a little too paranoid or schizo here, but it's just a little weird to me. But regardless, it's pretty good. I'd definitely say it's very locked down, pretty secure. And then the content retention, if you do wish to remove or archive certain information after X amount of time, you can do all that through here. And then the appearance section, if you'd like to change to default theme or if you'd like to use your own custom CSS, which some folks have opted in to use what I believe is called, blue site, bird site, something like that. But it essentially reflects the same theme and layout of Twitter, which is nice, I guess. But overall, it's Mastodon's a pretty good start forward, I'd say. Not only for the social media network and self-hosting yourself, but overall for the whole federated application side of things. It's a nice touch where you don't need one reliance on a big service. Multiple people can host their same service and interact with others on their own home servers. Just like with Matrix, it's a very nice touch. Federation in general, I think, is a very awesome thing. It's in my eyes, it's pretty fucking rad. To put it lightly here. But going into the server rules, as we just saw earlier, it's pretty basic. Warning presets, haven't had an option or choice to really use this just yet, so I haven't really customized it. Rules, if you wish to use different types of rules for different users. Personally, I find this pretty basic, or not basic, but easy to the point. I have no need to really customize this. And then for our announcements, if we wish to make custom announcements, so new announcement here, and start of the event and end, we'll just keep that as is. I shitted my pants. And then create. Cool. So now if we go back to our site, there it is, that announcement. I shitted my pants. So pretty easy to use, I'd say. We'll keep that there just for fun. The custom emojis, though, is definitely a nice touch, I'd say. And it's something I do plan on using quite a bit, both with a customized Discord server of my own, both for community and with just a few of my friends of mine. It's definitely a nice touch to be able to add personalization and a personality to your Mastodon instance, not just making it and not just making it a cookie cutter style. But I mean, overall, it's okay, I'd say. I definitely think Mastodon could use some additional customization, and I do wish to contribute to that. I'm going to go look into the code probably tomorrow since it is getting late. It is 10:24 here where I'm at. But I think Mastodon could use quite a few more features, and I'm not sure what language it's in, but I think I could commit myself to adding some extra stuff to it. So, regardless, though, the other thing I did want to mention, though, and maybe this is for a security reason, webhooks don't have a lot to them. Now, if we go edit this endpoint here, we can enable events for if accounts are approved, created, updated, if we have new reports created or updated, and then the status. However, one thing I wanted to do, and maybe this is just me, I wanted to kind of have an ability to mirror, okay, anytime I post in Mastodon, I want that to also show up in Discord, for example, in a specific channel. I couldn't really find a way to do this, and I did see some other triggers on like Zapier and Make.com that were had the ability for this, but I'm not going to pay for those services. I run my own webhook services instance, we'll just say. So I'm not exactly sure how to do that just yet. I do plan on looking more into it. But I definitely think the webhook section as well could use some additional customization. Excuse me. Granted, yes, not everyone is going to want their posts showing up on Discord, and that's where I could definitely say, okay, if post status is public, for example, which you can customize here. So if it's public or even quiet public, then send to Discord. Otherwise, followers or specific people should be left to only obviously those specific targets. And just leave it as is. I'd say it's pretty easy to do, or pretty straight to the point there. Not really a whole lot of hurdles to jump through. Now, like I said, I'm not trying to jack myself off here and say I'm the most bestest elite programmer here. But in terms of trying to essentially, how do I put this? If we are to compete and do better than the social media platforms that have been given to us, Facebook, Twitter, Meta, whatever you want to call it, we should add in additional customization functionality, something to encourage people not only to come over, but why they should look in these features, why they should use them. Not all of them obviously will be used by everyone, but it is a nice touch nevertheless. So especially even just making things easier for people too, I think is a big thing. And like I mentioned earlier, running videos by people. Let's take that for example. I want to run things by people to make it easier for them. This should be one of those things. Do some market analysis, market research, understand what are people looking for in social media? What do they want? What would make it easier for them to come over, change over? Would they just want to spend $10 a month to host their own Mastodon instance? Would they be fine going over to someone else's and feeling fine there? It really just depends, right? And then additionally, though, going back in the Mastodon here, the relay section. This one is interesting. And I imagine this is for scaling out Mastodon, making sure you're not lagging your instance behind. This is actually a situation, like I said, if my understanding is correct here, I had a situation with Matrix or Element, either one, where I've gotten a big server with a bunch of people who had their own federated instances of Matrix as well. This caused my own Matrix server to have to synchronize with everyone, which fucking slammed the shit out of all my services that Matrix relied on, which I do believe was Postgres at the time. So I had to actually wait for Matrix to resync with everything for a couple hours before anyone could use Matrix again. So that was a bit painful to watch though. But I think this is a nice touch. If, like I said, if I'm understanding this correctly. But with all that aside, though, going into the development section, you're able to, I believe, connect things over OAuth, similar like Discord's developer portal. So definitely a nice touch here, I'd say. Maybe this is where we can add in our specific post can be added into a Discord channel. I wanted to more do it as every one of my federate instances would show up in a Discord, but maybe we can figure something out here. And then you can invite people, which, like I said, we don't use that here. Importing and exporting information, so domain blocks, how many people I've blocked, which that was one of our test accounts, followers list, all sorts of information, which I would definitely say this is fucking awesome. Sorry, but it's to be able to just export your information, everything about your account, and just move over to another server. You can't do that with Twitter. You can't do that with Facebook. You can't do that with Instagram. And I feel like that's a big thing that people just don't. That's why they don't move, right? You have everything here on Twitter. You have all your followers. You have everything at your tips. Like, it's why people, when they lose their YouTube channel, their Twitch channel, it's big. Wow, I'm clipping my mic. I apologize. I'm sorry, but it's insane to me because we rely on these big services so much, and I now know, you know, I'm a victim of that per se. I rely on YouTube here, and that's why I make those video mirrors on our own site. But you know, if I had 10, 100 million subscribers, if I had all that revenue coming in and then all of a sudden zero, I'd be fucking pissed too. I'm sorry. But this is huge. The ability to just be able to remove all your information from one instance and move it to another is huge. So the other thing I do wonder though, but I did notice poking around in the database that there was some private and public RSA keys. I do wonder what stops me from exactly requesting my own archive or someone else's archive from another instance and then just importing it to my own. Do all those followers come with me? Is that verified? Is all that information there? I'm not sure if that can necessarily be faked, which I think is definitely a big issue if possible, or if that is the case, because that can be problematic, especially say, God forbid, our instance here gets breached, or one of the bigger Mastodon instances get breached, right? Everyone's relying on that one person to be a follower, and someone else goes to spin up their own Mastodon instance. Say, we'll just go off the example, right, of PewDiePie. PewDiePie has a Mastodon instance at PewDiePie at Mastodon Social. Someone breaches PewDiePie's account, exports his data, and they go host PewDiePie.com on their own domain. They make PewDiePie their own account through their PewDiePie.com domain on their instance. Now, they go to import all that information of PewDiePie's followers, his posts, all this stuff, right? And the issue with it is, okay, now everyone begins to think that this is actually PewDiePie posing, or not posing. This is actually PewDiePie on his own instance, and yada yada. Now here comes the problem of how can that be verified, right? Granted, yes, a breach will usually cause that, in which people can be spoofed per se. But I believe there should be some security there, right? Whether as you export that information, it only holds the public keys and maybe you hold the private key. Something along those lines, I'm not exactly sure. But I think a little extra security there and reassurance would definitely be a good step. Because going off the information here, we can import all that. Following list, bookmarks. Okay, so it doesn't look like we can exactly import followers, but we can import following. But regardless, it's something to keep in mind. Because, I mean, that's also not too hard to do either. if you know how to manage your own Mastodon instance. If, to my understanding, I can just import those followers and just add it into the database. I mean, is that super hard, right? So something to keep an eye out for. I'll dive into the code, see it for myself. Um, and then account settings, if we wish to change the password, yada yada, or current sessions, which is a nice touch. Moving to a different account or from a different account, or if we wish to delete altogether. Okay, definitely nice, good to use. I'll have to keep that in mind. Our two-factor authentication, which I know this is going to be weird to say. There should be the ability to disable both two-factor authentication and changing your password, especially in instances like this where I actually no one has their passwords on Mastodon. Like I said, we use our own single sign-on instance, so none of this information should be used, and the single sign-on should actually be managing any two-factor authentication for that matter. Now, regardless, that's a small point. I guess as long as no one turns on two-factor authentication, it's fine. Authorized apps, just like anything else, that's nice. Okay, and then our Mastodon for Android, since we've signed on there. Automated post deletion, definitely a nice touch to add. I personally don't see a reason to ever do this. Maybe for bot or automated accounts, yes, that's nice. Filters, if we don't, I guess, similar to Twitter's filters, if you don't want to see certain keywords or phrases, that's definitely a nice one. The warnings is definitely nice as well. I know Twitter outright hides it to my knowledge. Okay, yeah, so that's definitely good. They do the filters a lot better than Twitter, I'd definitely say. Followers and following. Okay, pretty easy. Severed relationships is also a nice touch. If one instance has blocked another instance at the admin level, you're able to see this, to my understanding. And then the preferences and email notifications, all that good stuff. Okay. So overall, I definitely say Mastodon is a good start forward, but it could use some features and updates. I definitely hope to see these in the future, and I know Mastodon and Blue Sky and all that. They, to my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't wish to be wrong here. I believe all my information is factual and correct, at least at the time of recording here. But Blue Sky is powered by Mastodon. They simply used Mastodon to build off of and then customize it to their own specs. Now, personally, I don't have a Blue Sky account. I don't really care to do that. I love to self-host my own things and then provide that functionality for others. That's kind of just how I am. Which is, excuse me, which is why I've spun up this instance here. Which, like I said, you guys are more than welcome to come over. Do let me know if there's any problems. Like I said, all this I am actively building and trying to work out, and actively, Jesus, can't stop burping. Holy shit. Okay, we're good. Now, like I said, it, I Blue Sky, I don't have an account on, right? It's powered by Mastodon. I've never cared for it. I want to spin up my own Mastodon instance, both for testing, but to provide for others. Now with that in mind, Blue Sky does not hold the opinions of Mastodon. Mastodon does not hold the opinions of others hosting Mastodon itself. Similar to Matrix, similar to any federated instance or self-hosted instance for that matter. Which I think is nice. It's one of those things in which if you don't like the rules, the opinions of whatever it may be of one administrator or multiple administrators in one single instance of Mastodon, you can move over to another instance. Or hell, you can even host your own if you want. If it's just you, really. And there's nothing to it or nothing against it. More power to you. And I think that is an important thing to note with Mastodon. I'm not gonna say anything towards the opinions and what I hold against or for Mastodon or Blue Sky. It's just not my cup of tea. But it is definitely nice to be able to just feel free hosting this software myself. And not only that, but especially the open source aspect of it. I don't like these features that Mastodon has. I'll just go customize and do it myself, and then go from there, right? So I'll go ahead and leave the links down below if you guys do wish to join our Mastodon instance. I do plan on adding more, including SearchX or XNG, however it's called, as well as some additional features. And I've got some special software actually in the works. Hence why I haven't been uploading or sending any updates for a while. So feel free to either tune in to my Mastodon instance here, or you guys can go follow my Twitter, anything else, or just watch me shitpost on nerdherd.wtf. Whatever your heart desires, right? So thank you guys for watching, and likes, comments, questions, leave them down below. Good or bad comments, leave me spiteful, hateful comments, all that hate speech, or whatever it is. Or just, if you enjoy the video, leave me a comment down below. Whatever it is. I'm always happy to answer any questions and concerns, and I'll be sure to follow up on any comments that I hadn't already over on my YouTube channel. So thank you guys for watching, and have yourselves a wonderful day.